Hello everyone, this is part 33 of What If Naruto and Hinata trained together and a spark happened, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Hinata was tired, but pleasantly so, as she entered the Hyuga manor. Tenten had been working with her on the three common short swords, the Ziphos, Gladius, and Wakizashi. The pale beauty had been put through her paces with the trio of weapons, both alone and in mismatched pairs. Hinata felt she was finally mastering the light blades, particularly the Ziphos, the leaf-shaped blade having elements in common with both of the other two swords. And whenever Tenten was not commenting on her technique, the older teen was pestering Hinata about her love life. For the first few hours, Hinata tried to ignore her friend, occasionally asking her to stop. Then the decreasingly shy teen realized the teasing was part of her emotional training. So she tried to turn it back on Tenten, but Hinata was at a disadvantage. The Byakugan user was uncomfortable asking for the details of what was also Neji's love life. After all, he was not only her cousin, but essentially her half-brother, too. Before she could reach her room, Hinata was intercepted by her father. Hinata, there is something we need to speak on, the clan leader began without greeting her, failing to hide his dissatisfaction, his voice oddly proper. Hello, father, she said carefully, can I drop off my bag and get cleaned up first? I am afraid there is no time for that, he told her regretfully, you need to come with me right now. She nodded, worried, and allowed him to lead her deep into the mansion. He brought her to one of the multi-purpose rooms, designed to be used for meetings or as a small-scale practice room. He opened the door, and waited for her to step through. Inside the room were the 5 Hyuga clan elders, her grandfather Hyuta in front and the other 4 arrayed behind him. Other than her grandfather's sister Hiroko, she did not know her exact relationship with the other elders. They were all kneeling on pads quite formally. Directly in front of the head elder, a silken cloth covered a long, shallow box. Opposite the elders was another pillow, with one final position open between the elder and the lone seat, but far off to the side. After he closed the door, Hiashi Hyuga moved to the observer's spot, and knelt rigidly. Hinata, please have a seat. Her grandfather's tone was polite and seemingly open, but she detected a current of pride and anticipation in his words. She unshouldered her bag and set it by the door, before taking her place as the target. To what do I owe this honor? Hinata asked neutrally yet officially. Your 17th birthday is fast approaching, Hyuta answered, and we need to start considering your future, Hinata, and the future of the Hyuga clan. She watched him carefully, but did not respond. In her entire life, her father's father had only called her by name 3 times before. But now he had used her name twice in under a minute. This only increased her worry about what he had planned, but she kept her emotions tightly hidden. To that end I have been investigating potential suitors, the previous clan leader continued, and I am pleased to say we have arranged an excellent husband for you. He is a Jonin from the village hidden in the mines, and also a noble in the land of silver. He holds the position of Duke, which is like a regional governor, only as a hereditary position. And he is quite anxious to meet you. I am afraid I must decline, Hinata said carefully, as is my right under the laws of the Hidden Leaf Village, I will not enter into an arranged marriage. Is this because of the Uzumaki boy? Hyuta asked, his mask slipping slightly at her refusal. He had insisted to Hiashi that Hinata would offer no resistance. In a way, the young woman conceded, thinking to herself that if not for Naruto she might have given in to her grandfather's demands. He is not worthy of you, the elder sniffed, he is a mongrel with no family, and he is obviously using you to gain access to the Hyuga clan's political power. Naruto will be Hokage, Hinata counted simply and levelly, he had the support of the 3rd, and he has the support of the 5th. He is the student of 2 of the legendary Sannin, and the Kazekage is indebted to him. Unless some cosmic joke were to have the daimyo stride into the village and appoint some random ninja Hokage, Naruto will lead the Hidden Leaf one day. And given that Lord Hisoka seemed approving of Naruto when we met him, that scenario is unlikely. Naruto does not need our clan's power, he already has plenty of powerful friends. Hinata bristled slightly from her succinct destruction of his argument. But he covered it briefly, and moved on to his second theory. In that case, he is probably after our money, her grandfather decided. No, he is not, Hiashi spoke up, surprising his father and the other elders. In short-sighted anger, I made the same argument just over a year ago. Afterwards I made some discreet inquiries. Naruto Uzumaki is quite frugal with his money, perhaps as a result of growing with only his mother's pension. As his income has increased, his spending has remained mostly the same. Since reaching his majority, he has gained access to the royalties for his grandfather's books, as well as Yukihana's not insubstantial savings. In short, Naruto's personal net worth exceeds that of some of the smaller clans in this village. He just does not flaunt it. Hinata sniffed, but in surprise instead of derision. Whatever the case, the elder plowed forward. He is a second-rate ninja and not suitable to be the consort for the head of the Hyuga clan. Girl, if you wish to remain a candidate to succeed your father, you will break things off with the Jinchuriki and accept the husband we have chosen for you. And if I refuse? Hinata asked carefully. Then you will be deemed unfit, and relegated to branch clan status, he informed her directly, unable to resist a slight sneer at the end. At which point you will use the caged bird seal to force me into the arranged marriage. The pale beauty prompted. Of course not, her grandfather declared imperiously, we would not foist an inferior member of the Hyuga clan on such an important person. You would be free to pursue your dalliance with Uzumaki. If he would still have you, the chief elder said more smugly, but there was an undertone of haste that implied he had planned the statement but had nearly forgotten it. So I am to choose between the two cages you have prepared for me? Hinata asked sadly. An interesting way to phrase it, Hinata noted haughtily, but essentially correct. The young woman frowned as she considered that. Then she shook her head. And what if I choose neither? Hinata asked quietly, I could flee the clan. Ask the Hokage and the rest of the village for protection. She finally met her grandsire's eyes, and Hinata's gaze was firm. Our clan lost a great deal of respect and even some political power when Neji revealed your use of the caged bird seal. If I were to tell them that you used that seal as a threat to break the law and try to force me into an arranged marriage. She trailed off sadly, and her grandfather's white orbs bulged in anger. He quickly regained control, and the other four elders started muttering amongst themselves. Silence, he ordered his comrades, and then Hinata leaned forward, reaching for the cloth-draped box. I feared you might say something like that, so I have come prepared, he informed her superiorly, removing the shroud. Unveiled, the top of the case was marked with a large X with a hooked line on either side. Everyone in the room knew the symbol all too well. It seems I cannot allow you to leave this room without the caged bird seal, girl, Hyuga stated with grim satisfaction. He lifted off the cover of the wooden container, revealing the brand recessed in shaped, black, silk pad. I do not think we should place the seal on your forehead, but the secondary marking place on your spine will suffice, Hinata decided, reaching for the chakra-bonded iron. One of the elders shifted his shoulders uncomfortably, as if feeling something on his back. I wonder if this was what Itachi felt, Hinata said, her voice hoarse with disappointment. What? Hinata looked up from the brand at her statement, but fell back when he saw Hinata crouching over the box, staring at him with her sad, silver eyes surrounded by bulging, pulsing veins. Her left hand hung down, a cloud of chakra spinning lightly over it, ready to coalesce into a Rasengan if needed. Suijin. The elder gasped as he fell back on his butt. He had neither seen nor heard the girl move, though Hiashi and Hiroko had both noticed her movements, if barely. And they all recognized that she had activated her Byakugan without using words or her hands to focus her energy. Still crouching, Hinata took a step forward, moving between her grandfather and the brand. So, you intend to turn traitor, to slaughter your clan? Hinata asked with all the bluster he could muster. He had not seen the second level of Byakugan since his grandmother Hoshi's death. Part of him wanted to believe it was a trick or illusion, but he knew better. I do not intend to kill you, grandfather, Hinata said gently, pained that he could think that. You misunderstand me. When I mentioned Itachi, I was not speaking of his feelings when he executed the Uchiha clan. I meant the point when he realized his clan was too far lost in past glories and self-importance to recognize how stagnant they had become. How dare you? Hinata sputtered, and Hinata regarded him with deepening pity. Grandfather, I possess the Suijin Byakugan, a fact which was apparently a mystery to you. She shifted her attention to her father without taking her eyes off her grandfather, and Hiashi Hyuga shrugged, which means you think too little of me to read the clan leader's reports. That in turn means you do not know that at this point I can easily counter the primary techniques of our clan. So I doubt you can stop me from leaving. If you try, I will incapacitate you. Arrogant child, Huta's hand darted up, aiming the gentle fist at her heart, a potentially lethal move. Hinata in turn released her partial Rasengan and aimed both of her index fingers at his forearm. Enough, Hiashi shouted, before either of them could strike. They paused, and the chief elder seemed to return to his senses. He noted that Hinata would have shut off the chakra in his arm before he could have hit her, but ignored the fact as he settled regally back into place. Hinata took a step back, glancing at her father, but not releasing her Byakugan. Hinata, please sit down. Hiashi's request was firm but understanding. She gracefully knelt, but her eyes still remained silver, and her posture said she was ready to strike or run. Lord Huta, the clan leader addressed his father formally, based upon your statements, I believe you feel Hinata may not be fit to lead the clan. Is that accurate? Her fitness is suspect, at best, the elder answered with hesitation or remorse. And do you have a replacement in mind, should Hinata be branded as a branch family member? Hiashi prompted, not reacting to the insult. I do. And you believe the suitor you have picked for Hinata is stronger than Naruto Uzumaki? Hiashi continued. The Duke's strength is not the primary issue, but he is a jonin from the mines village. Then I propose a compromise, Hinata's father stated. In 1 week's time, Hinata will duel her replacement, and Naruto will duel the hidden mines jonin. If both Naruto and Hinata win, Hinata will remain the heir to the clan, and Naruto will be allowed to continue to court her. Is this acceptable? Yes, it is acceptable, Huta agreed with a sly grin. What say you, girl? Will you fight for your fate and your love? I will, Hinata said evenly, not letting herself be riled. What of Naruto? Hiroko Hyuga interjected softly. Are you certain he will agree to this, Hinata? I am. The young woman smiled slightly. Naruto is not one to back down from a challenge. And he has fought for me before, against much worse than a mere jonin. We will need to verify that, of course, Huta insisted, his voice filled with condescension. Then I believe this meeting is at an end. Hiashi stood before anyone could contradict him. Hinata stood as well, but as she approached the door, she finally gave in to her anger. Grandfather, she addressed him without turning as she opened the door, would you say my father and my cousin Neji are among the strongest member of our clan? That is a fair assessment, he agreed, smiling at what he took to be an admission of weakness. Naruto defeated Neji both physically and psychologically, 4 years ago, she pointed out, and last year, during my father's moment of anger, Naruto overcame him without making a single aggressive move. So if Naruto is such a second-rate ninja, what does that say about the Hyuga clan? She closed the door before he could react. Hiashi looked at his daughter, his emotions warring on his face. I'm sure that was very satisfying, he said, trying to keep her tone lecturing, but amusement and satisfaction leaking through despite his best efforts, but antagonizing your grandfather may come back to haunt you. You are probably right, Hinata agreed, still smiling, but I think Naruto, the Hokage, and my instructors would all be proud of me. As am I, his mask cracked, and he hugged her lightly. However, I recommend you spend the night with one of your friends. Maybe even the next few days. Naruto is out of town, maybe I will call him and see if I can stay at his condo tonight, she pondered out loud. When he gets back, please call me. Hiashi shifted back into clan leader mode. I wish to be there when you speak to him about this arrangement. Hinata exited her room cautiously. Having secured Naruto's permission to use his abode, she had packed her mission bag for a long-term assignment, and a second backpack with mundane supplies, civilian clothes, her copies of Sao Uzumaki's fantasy trilogy, all of the jewelry Naruto had given her and a few other pieces with special meaning. Considering her father's words, she left behind nothing she would regret losing. Halfway through her packing she heard someone arrive outside her door. Whoever it was did not knock or call out to her, instead choosing to simply wait. The young woman first considered leaving through the window, and then thought about using her Byakugan to see whom it was. But Hinata decided she was being paranoid. It could be Neji or Hanabi just as easily as her grandfather or one of his cronies. She opened the barrier and walked slowly into the hall. Hinata was surprised to see Hiroko Hyuga waiting for her. Though she felt comfortable enough around her grandfather's younger sibling to call her aunt, they were not particularly close. The young woman was not sure why the elder was visiting. Hiroko Hyuga was also something of an honored outcast among their clan. Though her combat skills were not up to the normal standards of their family, Hinata's great-aunt possessed other skills. 13 years Huta's junior, by rights she should have been a branch family member. But the same skills that earned her the nickname, Cursebreaker, had allowed her to remove the caged bird seal from herself not once, not twice, but 4 times. Eventually she and her brother made an arrangement whereby Hiroko would be allowed to live without the seal so long as she did not remove it from anyone else without permission. In her life, there had only been one chakra knot that Hiroko had failed to unravel, that being the cursed mark on Anko Mitarashi. Hinata, Hiroko addressed her grandniece softly, I need to speak with you. Shall we speak on my way out, or will it take longer than that? Hinata asked. The Cursebreaker considered the question, and then took her place alongside the younger Kunoichi. I will walk with you for as long as this takes, the Hyuga elder said significantly, even if it is beyond this house. They began to walk, in silence at first. What is it, Aunt Hiroko? Hinata dropped the formal tone and addressed her relative more casually. Do you understand what is happening here? Hiroko asked quietly. It wasn't just about me dating Naruto. Hinata asked, but she did not sound overly surprised. No, the expert on removing seals shook her head. I think if you were a branch family member, Hyuta would encourage that relationship. He is intent on making our clan as strong as possible, and no one would dispute Naruto's strength, especially now. His goal here is not to separate you from Naruto, it is to ensure his control over the clan, the female elder continued. If you become the clan leader, he wants your husband to be someone who will not interfere with Hyuga clan affairs. Naruto has too strong of a personality for my brother's tastes, though the same could be said for anyone in your peer group, except maybe Shikamaru Nara. Though I have not met this duke, my guess is that your arranged fiancé will not be one to interfere with Huta's plans. So, whether he marries you to a husband more in line with his way of thinking, separates you from the one who gives you strength, or simply brands you and replaces you with a more pliant heir, my brother wins. That said, there are 3 issues I want to discuss with you, Hinata's great-aunt said as they descended to the first floor. First, I need to make sure you are fully aware of what you are doing, Hiroko whispered. I know you care about Naruto Uzumaki, but he is dangerous. I was here when the fox demon attacked, and more than that, I was called upon to check the seals the 4th used to lock the QB inside your friend. I have seen how powerful and deadly that spirit is, and both then and now I have misgivings about Minato seals. I know, Hinata said softly, before the Jonin trials, Kakashi-sensei and I made some mistakes, and the fox demon took control of Naruto's body. She tried to kill me, but Naruto forced her to surrender. Hiroko's white eyes flared in amazement. And that's no longer an issue, Hinata added, I cannot explain how, but the 9 Tails is no longer sealed within Naruto, nor is she a threat to anyone anymore. Hiroko searched the girl's eyes, and then nodded, satisfied. Hinata opened the front door of the manor, and the 2 women both relaxed as they moved out onto the street. Secondly, this deal you entered into, the Cursebreaker continued, do you recognize why Hyuta agreed to it so quickly? Because of how the deal was worded, both you and Naruto must win, otherwise my brother gets his way. I understand, the younger Tokujo confirmed, I knew grandfather would not agree to it any other way. But I believe in Naruto, and in all modesty, there is only one member of our clan who can defeat me in open combat. I hope you are correct. Hiroko was mildly dubious, and that brings me to my last point. I do not believe my brother will leave it at this. He is proud, arrogant, and cunning. And the other 3 elders are branch family members, so they are used to following him. He will be making other plans, probably both to interfere with the duels before they begin, and against the possibility of your victory. That is why I am removing myself from the manor for now, Hinata agreed, but thank you for the warnings. Good luck, Hinata. Hiroko embraced her grandniece briefly, before turning back towards the manor. Hinata squared her shoulders, and resumed walking. Good morning, grandson, Hyuta said brightly, as Neji entered his office. The clan elder stood respectfully, putting the Jonin further on guard. His grandfather showed the young man to a chair before returning to his own seat. How are you this morning? Hyuta asked, missing or ignoring Neji's stiff, uncomfortable posture. Hisashi's son mentally ran through a list of reasons for his grandfather's good mood. He is trying to trick me in some way. Neji thought of the most likely scenario first, or perhaps Lady Tsunade was killed, and Lord Hyuta has been named the new Hokage. Well enough, the teen answered aloud, relaxing and nearly smiling as he considered, maybe he has lost his mind, or has become addicted to some sort of hallucinogen. Good, glad to hear it, the elder said with slightly less energy, recognizing he might be overplaying his role. He studied his oldest grandchild, a small amount of sadness tinting his cold assessment of the Jonin. Very few members of the clan reached the highest shinobi rank, most stopped at Tokubutsu Jonin, specializing in either scouting or gentle fist combat. But Neji, like his father before him, had become a full Jonin, psychologically thumbing their noses at the clan leader and elders. Even without his Byakugan, Hyuta could tell the younger man was on edge. Though this generally pleased the elder, he knew from experience if he could not get his grandson to unwind, it would be much harder to close the deal. We have never exactly been close, have we, Neji? Hyuta offered regretfully, and it's mostly my fault. I secretly resented your father, first for making my life as clan leader more difficult simply by being born, and then for becoming a Jonin and leading a life away from the clan. And I may have let those feelings carry over to you. Is he dying? Neji's shoulders slumped slightly as his grandfather's words and tone lead him to another possibility. And I have not treated you fairly, the elder continued, not privy to his grandson's thoughts, but not oblivious to the shift in the young man's mood. What are you saying, grandfather? The branded Jonin asked carefully. Hyuta smiled ever so slightly. I am saying that you are quite probably the strongest member of the Hyuga clan, the elder admitted, and that it is a shame you are trapped as a branch family member. But there may be a way to change that. Neji's eyebrows shot up slightly, but other than that he managed to rein in his surprise and hope. He studied his grandfather's face for signs of duplicity, but Hyuga was either honest, or too skilled of a dissembler for the young ninja to detect. How? Neji asked nervously. Hyuta looked down at the question, then met his grandson's face with a resolved look. Can I trust you not to repeat what I am about to tell you? The elder countered sternly, and the marked youth nodded. I am concerned about the future of the clan, Hyuta told Neji quietly. I do not believe either of Hyashi's daughters are fit to lead. Hanabi has been spoiled. And even though Hyashi has focused on training her, her skills are not where I would expect them to be. She certainly would not be able to work out how to perform the 8 trigrams 64 palms on her own. Hyuta's veiled praise baited the hook further, and Neji nodded in spite of himself. And Hinata. Hyuta paused, carefully considering his next words. He knew that the cousins had grown close, and that too obvious of an attack would hurt his cause. Hinata's skills have surpassed my expectations, the elder admitted, exaggerating only slightly, but she is still not at your level, and likely never will be. And more importantly, I worry that she may not be emotionally strong enough to control our clan. And what does this have to do with me? Neji asked with guarded optimism. A challenge has been issued, Hyuta said, to judge Hinata's fitness. To test her judgment, the suitor I have selected to help her lead the clan will face Naruto Uzumaki in single combat. And to test her strength, she will duel the one I believe should replace her as the clan heir. I would like that person to be you, Neji. You want me to fight Hinata? Neji asked carefully. I would not say I want it, Hyuta said with equal heed, but it needs to be done for the sake of our clan. Neji nodded, despite not being thoroughly convinced. And what does this mean for me? The younger prompted, trying to determine his grandfather's purpose. If you defeat Hinata, preferably without killing her, the elder answered, then you will be the next heir to your uncle's position. Naturally, that would mean the caged bird seal would need to be removed. Then Hyuta smiled secretively, and added, and I would also be in a position to officially endorse your engagement to Tenten. To make sure the rest of the clan recognized it, of course. The carrot and the stick, Neji kept his opinion to himself, unlike Hinata. And what if I cannot defeat Hinata? The Jonin prompted. I can only ask that you do your best, Hyuta shrugged, his voice mildly dubious. If you try, and fail, then I presume nothing will change. Then there is no reason for me not to accept. Neji forced a smile, and Hyuga grinned broadly at his response. Excellent. Hyuga smiled again, and started to fill his champion in on the details. The duels will take place next Saturday. Hyuga looked around enviously at the main room of Naruto's condo. The young man's home was decorated in a simple, classic manner. And more than anything, it had a comfortable quality the Hyuga manner lacked. Most of the rooms in his clan's home had traditional kneeling cushions instead of chairs. Though some of the offices had raised seating, they were all unpadded hardwood devices, designed to discourage relaxation. He settled into one of the love seats, and could not suppress a sigh of relief. Naruto has a nice home, he told his daughter. Thankfully, he takes better care of it than he did his apartment in the barracks, Hinata commented, and then blushed slightly, realizing what she said, and to whom she said it. Hinata had called her father, after Naruto called her to let her know they were getting close to the village. Now he smiled slightly at her frankness. That is probably because he never truly felt at home at the barracks, Hiashi suggested. It was just a place to stay, rather than a place he was really attached to. Hinata nodded, and before either of them could say anything more, they heard the sound of a key turning in the deadbolt. I'm home, Naruto called out as he swung in the door to his condo. Welcome back. Hinata rushed over to embrace him. Uzumaki started to kei her, until he noticed the back of Hyashi's head. Stiffening, he released her, except for one hand, and walked into the living room. Hello, Lord Hyashi, Naruto greeted the older man formally, worried by the clan leader's unexpected appearance in his home. To what do I owe the honor? Hyashi wanted to laugh at the young man, and said as much. Your reaction would be comedic, the Hinata's father told the blonde teen, were it not unfortunately fitting for the situation. The father and daughter told Uzumaki about the meeting with the elders, glossing over some of the insults that had been leveled at the young man. But when they reached the part where Hyuga attacked Hinata, Naruto suddenly interrupted. Who the heck does that jerk think he is? Naruto demanded angrily. He is a chief elder of the Hyuga clan, Hinata said gently, trying to calm her beloved. And aren't you the clan leader, old man? In his fury Naruto dropped the politeness and returned to the more familiar form of address. I am, Hyashi replied tersely, but the leader and the elders each have their assigned roles in the clan. And unfortunately, my father is currently in a position to better flex his political muscles. What does that mean? Confusion dulled the fox-faced teen's fire. It means that if my father goes too far, my grandfather can have him removed as the clan leader, Hinata answered sadly. Ha! The blonde shinobi grunted, he can do that. The 5 elders can, by unanimous vote, Hyashi verified, and right now, the elders are basically all under my father's thumb. Normally there would be 2 main family members amongst the elders. That helped the balance of power, and allowed the 3 elders from the branch families to act more freely. But due to certain unexpected deaths, and the 2 preceding clan leaders' overuse of the cage bird seal, there are currently only 4 main family members. My aunt Hiroko was selected to be an elder for her nebulous status as neither main nor branch family member, but that also means she does not balance out my father in the eyes of the other 3 elders, and they bow to his will. This in turn compels the Cursebreaker to follow her brother, lest she always be the odd woman out. Naruto frowned unhappily, more or less understanding the situation. He looked back at Hinata, remembering their tale. Does that mean you are on the run, Hinata? He asked gently. She shook her head. If you would let us finish our story. Hyashi said indulgently. He had been close to anger when Naruto had challenged him, but calmed again at the young man's thoughtfulness towards Hinata. Sorry, Naruto grinned apologetically. They told him quickly about the deal they had struck with Hyuga. Hinata also told both men about the meeting afterwards with her great-aunt, laying out the elders' worries about the terms of the duel and Hyuga's potential interference. Hyashi found himself nodding in agreement with his aunt's concerns. So all we gotta do is beat these guys, right? Naruto prompted, and then Hinata is safe. More or less, Hyashi confirmed, though you 2 should both make a concerted effort not to take the life your opponents, particularly you, Naruto. Killing a noble from the land of silver could be bad both for you and for the land of fire. Uzumaki nodded broadly, his eyes squinting in thought. Still, we can do this, right Hinata? His blue orbs locked on her with a grin. She smiled and nodded, even if she was not quite as confident as he appeared to be. Right, So we've got 5.5 days to prepare, Naruto considered. We should probably spend most of the time training. Hinata, were you planning to return home? Hiashi asked carefully, still not entirely happy with the idea of his daughter spending a week alone with Naruto in his home. No, she shook her head, her braid bobbing slightly, both to that and to Naruto's point about training. I will be staying with Shizune this week, and she and Temari will be working with me. I am to meet them after lunch to begin. Great, Naruto masked his disappointment, then I'll go find out what Kakashi-sensei can tell me about the Hidden Mines shinobi. If there is anything I can do for either of you, let me know, the leader of the Hyuga clan informed them fondly, as he moved towards the door. Sure thing, old man, Naruto shot him a thumbs up. Thank you, father, Hinata embraced her sire lightly before he left. Again, Neji panted, then he shook his head, frowning, no, I need something stronger. It's not a substitute for the Rasengan. The Hyuga Jonin and his fiancée were in one of the many small clearings just outside the village, practicing. Neji had been having Tenten throw spheres of hardened wind chakra at him, so he could deflect them with his 8 trigrams heavenly spin. I don't understand, Tenten frowned, frustrated and tired as well. Why do you want to train against the Rasengan? It is how Hinata created her upgraded heavenly spin, he said softly, and also a move she might use against me. Hinata, you're training to fight Hinata? His fiancée demanded. He nodded, and she begged, why? I don't have a choice, he said regretfully. That doesn't really answer my question, she told him pointedly. If you want me to keep helping you, I'm going to need a bit more than that. He faced her firmly, but his lover did not give an inch. Finally, Neji sighed and slumped slightly, no longer meeting her eyes. I must have your word that you will not tell anyone about this, he requested defeatedly, not Guy-sensei or Lee, not the Hokage, and especially not Hinata or anyone else in the Hyuga clan. I should be asking for some sort of bonded oath, but I trust your word. Tenten worried about what he might be about to tell her, especially considering his last words. Because of the seal on his forehead, Neji was not fond of any chakra marks, so for him to even suggest a bonded oath told her how serious he was. But she was convinced by his mood, so she said simply, I promise. Neji nodded, and settled down against a tree, his left arm hanging over his raised left knee, partially hiding his face. He took a deep breath and began to explain, my grandfather has asked me to duel Hinata for the right to follow Uncle Hiashi as the leader of the Hyuga clan. I am to fight her this Saturday. Tenten opened her mouth as if to say something, and then immediately closed it again. Lord Huta claims he thinks I am more suited to lead than Hinata, he continued, though I doubt that is the whole truth behind this. Could you have refused? She prompted, already sure of the answer, but wanting to know the reason behind it. Officially, I had the option, of course, Neji smirked ruefully, but honestly, I did not. He told me that if I won, my caged bird seal would be removed. She bobbed her head a few times in understanding. Though no longer his primary guiding force, Tenten still knew there was little Neji would not do to be free of the restraining mark hidden under his headband. And he would officially approve our marriage, the white-eyed young man continued, but in so saying, he made clear that if I did not accept his offer, or did not try my hardest, he would do everything he could to interfere with us. Tenten frowned at that. She understood that even though the laws of the village prevented the Hyuga elders from controlling the romantic relationships of the other clan members, the reality was that they could make maintaining a relationship difficult, if not nearly impossible, especially for a branch family member. Tenten considered the situation. She felt somewhat responsibility towards Hinata, both as the younger woman's friend and as her weapons instructor. But she cared more Neji than Hinata, and had her own life and future to worry about. Sorry, Hinata, she whispered, then she addressed her boyfriend with a wry grin. I think you may be going about this the wrong way, she told him. How so? He frowned. Hinata doesn't know she is fighting you, right? Tenten pointed out, and Neji nodded, and most of the members of your clan focus on the gentle fist and Byakugan techniques. So that is where she will probably be focusing her last-minute training. Neji's eyes narrowed thoughtfully, and he found he could not refute his partner's statement. He gestured for her to continue. And, to be honest, she's already got a big lead on you there, Tenten told him frankly, but we can use that assumption against her. How? You are more than just a Hyuga, you have other ways to fight, Tenten reminded him, pointing out the flaw she knew most Jonin, herself included, were guilty of, styles of taijutsu other than the gentle fist. You have an array of good water and earth techniques, most of which Hinata hasn't seen. Genjutsu is probably out, and weapons may be your sore spot, but they might be your best bet here. Why? He considered. Because they are Hinata's weak spot. 2. Tenten did not feel she was betraying any confidences by pointing out the fact, you already have the advantage on Hinata in strength and reach, and a good sword or spear could help you exploit that further. What would you suggest as my course of study then, Tenten-sensei? He teased her fondly, appreciating the advice. Your second and third best weapons are the longsword and quarterstaff, respectively, she lectured, trailing far behind your tonfas. The spetum has a heavy enough blade to utilize parts of the longsword style, and is a polyam so you can also use your staff skills. So I would focus on that type of spear, and also try to learn a few new minor earth and water jutsu, if just to mix things up a little more. He frowned slightly, informing her, our knowledge of earth techniques is almost identical, and you do not know very many water jutsu. I'll see if I can borrow some scrolls from the library, she suggested, taking it upon herself to help keep his extra training a secret, or maybe Guy-sensei. Tenten, he called for her attention, as she started to drift off into her planning. She looked up at him as he took her into his arms, and her. Tenten blushed in surprise, even though they were alone, Neji was not one for displays of affection outside of a locked room. Thank you, he told her when he broke away. It's you and me, right? She told him, even if it is against the rest of the village or the rest of the world. Good morning, Hinata, Shizune greeted her temporary housemate as the Hyuga clan refugee emerged from the small second bedroom that served as both the Kunoichi doctor's study and guest bedroom. Good morning, Shizune, the younger woman offered around a stifled yawn. How did you sleep? The healer asked. I have slept better, Hinata said gently. She considered offering applaud, but knew that her yawns and general posture would make the lie obvious to the trained medic. As part of the teen's confidence training, Shizune demanded the brutal truth and full disclosure. And when she did not get it, Shizune punished Hinata with the same ferocious disapproval that could force the Hokage into action. I'm sorry, I know my spare futon isn't the best, Shizune poured herself a cup of coffee, and offered one to her student, who shook her head. No, thank you, Hinata turned the down stimulant. While I must admit it is not the most comfortable place I have ever slept, as per our agreement, Hinata added the last part as above, and Shizune grinned back, I think it was more about nerves than the accommodations. You don't need to be nervous, Shizune protested, and Hinata shook her head, no, more vehemently. That is kind of you, but in 5 days I will be fighting for almost everything that is important to me, Hinata noted despondently, my freedom, my relationship with the man I love, my pride and advancement, and I do not know whom I am fighting. It could be Neji, it could be my sister, or it could be a cousin I barely know whom my grandfather has been training in secret for this moment. It's Neji, Temari said, swiping a slice of toast from Shizune's plate. Both of the other women turned to stare at her. We're in a hurry, and your lock is inadequate, so I let myself in, the Sand Jonin told them in between bites. Why do you think it will be Neji? Shizune shook slightly, but repressed her anger at the indignity. I was there 4 years ago, Temari noted, and if I were Hoto Hyuga, I would be hoping for a repeat performance from one or both of them. Huta, Hinata corrected again, despite the blonde woman having made it clear the previous day that the mispronunciation was deliberate. Besides, Temari ignored her, Neji is the only official Hyuga Jonin. Unless he is hoping Hinata will be unwilling to fight Hanabi, Shizune pointed out. It's Neji, the foreign genius insisted, that's the best play. What are we going to work on today? Hinata interjected quickly, hoping to forestall any arguing. Shizune glanced to Temari first, who was in charge of the morning exercises. This morning will be my special calisthenics, Temari said darkly, removing a set of devices from her bag. They appeared to be some sort of joint pads, ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, elbow, and wrist. But they were thicker than they need to be. I designed these after watching Lee's fight with Gaara, the Kazekige's sister said, they provide resistance on all the major joints, and also weigh about 10 pounds each. You'll put these on, and then you'll work on dodging our attacks with the extra weight and resistance. This will help you to quickly increase both your speed and endurance. So you can better dodge those gentle fist attacks, since blocking them doesn't help. Hinata tried to bend one of the elbow pads, and frowned at its inflexibility. And maybe I'll have you leave those on in the afternoon as well, Shizune said. We'll be working on your non-lethal earth and lightning techniques after lunch, and I'm sure these will work better the longer you wear them. Hinata sighed, and then nodded, saying, let's get started then. Naruto, is something the matter? Yugao Azuki asked, lower her katana. She was sparring her fiancé's student, both because she was more skilled with weapons than Kakashi in general, and because she had experience facing the staff blade from her time in Team Hisashi. Plus, Kakashi was taking a nap with the daughter. Her last attack had been a fairly simple feint, to test her theory. And as she expected, the basic, D-rank move slipped right past Kitsune. You seem distracted, she added. Uzumaki sighed, and sheathed his staff blade. It's just, I'm worried about this duel, he admitted. The former Anbu agent regarded him in concerned surprise. Why? She tried to draw out his thoughts. This isn't any different than your duel with Neji in the Chunin exam 4 years ago, except for the amount of time you have to prepare, right? No, he shook his head. I don't know anything about this guy, not even his name. I'm going into the fight blind. And even worse, the one thing I do know is that this guy is a mines ninja, he added, looking defeated. I mean, those guys are supposedly invincible. She raised an eyebrow at him, beginning, I wouldn't say that. We learned about them back in the academy, he interjected. The village hidden in the mines fought the Hidden Cloud and Leaf villages at the same time during the Second Ninja War, and even though they were outnumbered 50-1, the mines ninjas won without a single casualty. The Hidden Leaf didn't attack until 7 months after Cloud ninjas were driven out, she corrected, trying to hide her amusement at Naruto's fractured version of history. The Cloud ninjas only outnumbered the mines ninjas 5-1, and we only had just over 7 times the number of warriors. And the mines ninjas might have lost fewer troops than either of the aggressors, but they did not make it out unscathed. They lost their village chief in an ambush by the Anbu. Still, that's pretty bad. Naruto did not look relieved, but the slightly less impressive version of the history of the mines village. Yugao smiled slightly. I'm going to tell you the secrets of the hidden mines shinobi, Naruto, she said conspiratorially, and the Tokujo perked up instantly. Of course, it wasn't really a secret, but given the reclusive nature of the mines ninjas, it was not necessary for most Leaf ninja to know, thus it was not common knowledge either. But the new mother expected she would get better results if she presented it to the teen as confidential information. Naruto leaned forward in anticipation. You see, the mines ninjas are virtually unbeatable, but only when they are defending their own territory, she explained, and he frowned in thought. The mines ninjas never take missions outside the Land of Silver, she continued, and in fact most of them only ever leave their nation to compete in the Chunin exams. Supposedly this is because the Land of Silver is under nearly constant attack, so they cannot afford to spare the manpower. And while that is partially true, it is just as true that it helps maintain the legend of their strength. You see, the mines shinobi are specially trained to defend their homes. They are masters of traps, both mundane and chakra-based, to the point where their leaders can lay traps that some say even the 3 great dojutsu cannot detect. They also memorize their surroundings, so they can navigate by sound, touch, and in some cases even smell. This lets them use ninjutsu or genjutsu to nullify sight or hearing, but still be able to get around. But since you will be fighting this noble here, he won't have that advantage, she reassured him. The other part of their mystique is that the mines ninjas are tough. Yugao transitioned to the second part of her lecture. They learn how to take a hit, and pound for pound have more stamina than 90% of the shinobi out there. In battle, they tend to be very good at letting their opponents wear themselves out. But that doesn't matter either, because I doubt any mines ninja can match your endurance. Thanks, Yugao-sensei, Naruto grinned. You are welcome, she smiled fondly at the young man, and then twisted it into a smirk. So can we get back to work? It won't be too long before Kakashi and Ray get up from their nap, and she usually wakes up hungry. Good afternoon, gentlemen, Tsunade said without turning. To what do I owe the pleasure? Hiashi Hyuga shuddered slightly, having had enough encounters with the Hokage recently to catch the hitch in her voice, but Hyuta simply continued as if the greeting had been in earnest. Lady Hokage, Hyuta schmoozed, we would like to ask your permission to use the outdoor arena for a minor clan function this weekend. Stow it, Hyuta, she barked, spinning her chair around. I already know all about the duels you two arranged. The duel set up between Hinata and her unknown Hyuga opponent is bad enough, but to invite a foreign ninja to fight one of our own. It's within my authority to put a stop to this, and censure the both of you. Some might even say I have a responsibility to do so. Then she stopped, and smirked, but I'm not going to. I'm going to not only let you use the arena, I'm going to let the whole village know, so they can turn out to watch. Hyuta flinched momentarily, but quickly recovered his falsely humble expression. Thank you very much, Lady Hokage, the Hyuga elder simpered. He turned to leave, and then paused, as if another thought occurred to him. Lady Tsunade, Hyashi's father addressed her slightly less formally, it occurs to me that Naruto is familiar with the layout of the arena, but Duke Ruijaku is not. Would it be possible for him to spend a few hours Friday afternoon surveying the venue, in private? In private, the Hokage asked, why? So that he can feel free to seriously look around, and does not feel like he is being studied for skills or weaknesses. I suppose that can be arranged, the leader of the Konohagakure shrugged. Thank you again, Hyuta left, not noticing or caring that his son remained behind. As the door closed, Tsunade frowned. I have to say, that man is pretty slippery, she told Hyashi. My father knows how to play politics, Hyashi agreed, but then studied the Hokage's face curiously, as if trying to find something. What is it? She demanded dubiously. I understand making it public, to limit the tricks my father can try to pull, the clan head told her, but then why go and give the Mines Ninja free access to the venue before the fight? It's like you are inviting him to lay traps. I am, she sat back triumphantly, I was originally going to schedule Hinata's match first, so she could use the snares and seals to her own advantage. But ultimately, I decided not to cheat like that. You see, the more advantages Duke Ruijaku has going in, the less Hyuta can complain when Naruto wins. He continued to observe her, ultimately asking, Lady Tsunade, do you know something I don't know, with respect to these duels? The Hokage did not answer him, except to grin slightly wider. That will be all for this video, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos, goodbye.